gift through his word. It's God's gift through his word. It's God's gift through his word. It's God's gift through his word.
Well, hello, everyone. I hope everyone has had a great day thus far. I am here with my amazing podcast host and friend, Pastor Jay. So, we're going to be talking about Cloak, Cover, and Conceal. It's part of our cuffing season series. So, hello, Pastor Jay.
Hey T, what's going on? How you doing out there in Sunshine Land?
Good, good.
Yeah, so everything is going well over here. Can't wait to get started. There'll be some new twists, just like it was in Hubson. We're going to talk about a couple of things that Cloak, Cover, and Conceal. So I'm looking forward to speaking, and let's just get started with it.
Absolutely.
So 6 years ago, we started the series on cuffing season, and we're continuing this series. I would suggest you guys go back to listen to Her Son, which is on God's Gift Through His Word podcast, Facebook, YouTube, and other places. And that's a show that people really enjoy. And Cloak and Cover. So I'll just start off with what I took for Cloak and Cover. When I came up with Cloak and Cover, it's because of being a pastor and being the kind of guy I am. I run into a lot of people in relationships, male and female relationships, that are quite interesting and quite fascinating to me. And one of the things that I've found is that there are a group of women who settle for a certain type of man that they normally wouldn't settle for. And what they begin to do is cloak, cover, and conceal him. And what I mean by that is what they do is go out their way to make sure nobody sees his deficiencies or insufficiencies in his personality, maybe in his education, maybe in the way he dresses. You do go the extra mile to cloak, cover, and conceal who he really is. And a lot of times that thing that women, and it's sometimes men do, but I'm talking about women right now, that women do for these guys, you're not really helping them because you believe that you're protecting them or protecting their ego. And what you're actually doing is solidifying him to stay in a position to where he's not growing. And that's how you end up with the hub son, the guy who is a husband or a mate, but it's more like a child to you. And when he gets around his peers or he gets around people that you respect, you spend a overt amount of time cloaking, covering, and concealing him or propping him up to be something that he's not. And a lot of times what he does is end up embarrassing you anyway, because he's a man and he's going to be who he is. And if he feels that you're cloaking, covering too much and bruising his ego by doing so amongst his peers, especially his guy friends, then what he's going to do is rebel against you and then do something that to prove to him and to you that he's still in charge, no matter what his deficiencies are. So T, what do you think?
I think sometimes when we talk about that, that can also be frustrating to have to deal with a person like that. And for the person who's cloaking and covering, I think sometimes I would think that would be very taxing and mentally exhausting. I don't know if some ladies like to really do that, but for me, I think that would be very exhausting to have to do that all the time. You would get weary and it would be a lot. But I guess I find, like you're finding, that there are some women that don't mind doing that.
But see, the problem, the only issue is just as much as they might not wanting to do it on the front end, somewhere on the back end of the relationship or in the middle of the relationship, it becomes a problem. You know what I'm saying? It's not
Yeah.
a it's not a free ride. Last week, when we talked about hub sons, gave some advice that you were shocked that I gave when I said
Yeah.
these guys who are riding the gravy train, just leave these women alone and let them do what they do. And I'm gonna say the same for this. These guys who are riding that gravy train with these women who are having to cloak, cover, and conceal you because you're not at their standard of their normal pick during this season. You could just take it easy and ride the gravy train. You don't have to prove anything. They actually know of your inconsistencies. They know of your shortcomings. They know of your deficiencies. And they're not necessarily trying to solve those issues. They just want you to be with them during this time. Now, the only problem is that usually, even in a relationship, that even if they understand this, something goes wrong because somebody ends up taking advantage of the other person. Either the woman ends up taking advantage of him or he ends up taking advantage of the woman. And what he'll say to her is, and I've heard this phrase before, you knew the kind of man when you met me. And if you think about that, if he did not hide who he really was, he didn't play that game of I'm gonna put the best foot forward, or I'm gonna pretend like I'm somebody else that I'm not, and you picked him, then he has every right to say, "Hey, you knew who I was when you picked me, and if you didn't require uh, whining and dining and romance when we first got together, why are you requiring it now? Because you've given me everything, including who you are, your body and your spirit, and some of your finances. So why now are you changing the script and saying that I need to change? And what that does is make her start, okay, now I have to cloak and cover because he's in my life and he's told me the truth. And so now I have to go into the women who do that. Some women, and I've heard women say this, they believe that they could change men. And we've talked about that before, about changing men. So T, can women change men for real?
No, no, they can't do it. It will never happen. Never.
Why not? Why don't you think so?
I don't think so because men will only change if they want to. That's just like for women. Men know if they want to change. And if they're going to change, they're going to do it. And it's not because I told them as a woman or any other woman tells them that they could change. You take this man on and you think he's your project. He's not a project. He knows exactly what he's got. He knows exactly who it is. But he'll sit back and let you think that you're going to change him. And when he says, nah, and he continues to do whatever it is and then he bounces or whatever it is, men don't change unless they want to change, and women need to understand that. I don't think I've ever taken on a man that I want to do a project, and I think that part I was very glad I didn't have that thing about wanting to take people on to change. But when I hear women saying that, you can't change a grown man to change whatever he's been doing all this time. How you think you're going to do that? That's you cannot do that.
Yeah, whether he's a hub son or not,
Right.
he's
You
still a
cannot do
grown
that.
man. Yeah, he's still a
Right.
grown man. And the mistake is uh, getting with others who convince you that you're such a boss lady that the world is your oyster and you can change people. And we just talking about people in general, even if it's the other
Mhm.
way around, where the man believes he can change a woman. Well,
Mhm.
again, there's a level of she would have to want to change. It still begins with her, just like it
Mhm.
begins with him. And even in this cloak, cover, and conceal, there we've heard this where there are men who will date women and they will have the woman that they take the mom. They'd have the woman that they'll take out on their arms to the fancy restaurants to be around their friends. And then they would have the woman that they would call, pardon me, is the booty call.
Mhm.
You know, fake alpha man was trying to do that. You know what I'm saying? That I believe that
Mhm.
he wanted to make the situation just a booty call. Not necessarily he wanted to be with you or anybody else. It's just that he wanted to have something that he can keep under the cloak, cover, and conceal.
Mm.
So it goes both ways.
Yeah, it
It
does.
goes both ways. And if you're out there and you dating a guy and for some reason or another he never takes you around his friends, he never takes you around his relatives, holidays come and go, but y'all spending undercover time with each other, then you understand that there's some other woman that's getting the limelight while you while you getting the dusk and the dawn time.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And you're being concealed, you're being cloaked, you're being covered. And in any relationship, when we expand this thought, to any relationship, why would you want to be in a relationship with in even a friendship where your friend did not um honor you or acknowledge you as being their friend? Whereas when they got it even happened in the Bible. Remember when Paul rebuked Peter
Mm-hmm.
for when the Jews came around, he acted like he wasn't eating pork skins with the Galatians.
Right.
And Paul rebuked him, like, hold on now. Before they came, even Barnabas even tripped. And Paul rebuked them because he said, before they came, you were acting as a Gentile, eating with the Gentiles, fellowship with the Gentiles. But now that the Judaizers come, you have decided to pretend as if you weren't their friends or you didn't. And imagine how a person feels again, unless that's their comfort zone, when they feel that they are just cloaked, covered, and concealed. And then see, that's why I'm going with the twist in this. I'm looking at it from a person who wants to be with a person, but that person does not want to bring them forward in their social sphere. Okay, and you have that going on a lot in relationships now, whereas people are compartmentalized. I mean, you taught me some terminology. Was it uh, friends with benefits? What's the other one?
NSA, no strings attached.
Yeah. Now think about it. You start categorizing people in that area. What that means is they serve a purpose, and normally it's sexual.
Mm-hmm.
And after that, you don't share anything else. And so we've made having sex like drinking water.
Mm-hmm.
When the exchange of body fluids and things of that nature is the most intimate thing you can do. And as a woman, the most intimate thing you can give away. And as a man, as the most intimate thing that you can participate in. But the society has made it to where we can compartmentalize our relationships and say, you over here, NSA, friend with benefits, and you never be a part of the emotional, mental part of the person's life. You'll just be part of the sexual part. And I find that unnerving because a lot of times that person's being cloaked, covered, and concealed. They don't necessarily agree with it sometimes. They end up falling into it. And before they know it, they realize they feel less than, even though this person is spending naked, passionate time with them, but their day-to-day lives, they're not involved with them at all. No phone call, no nothing until it's time to get down. You know what I'm saying? So
Mm-hmm.
so when we talk about cloak and cover, we have to think that there's victims in this thing. That there are people out here that want to be loved, want to be cared for, but in this season of cuffing season, even the person that's like that may end up being the one being cloaked and covered, but that's not what they really want. And now we have a problem because once one puts one in that category, that's normally like a contract, a verbal contract or a non-verbal contract. And normally that person wants to be more than that. And that's when we come into the problems of the stalking and the feelings being heard. And again, if don't let it be a person who doesn't want to be exposed at all. Now we talk about blackmail and all
Oh, Pastor Jay.
kind of things that could happen when
He's coming back.
again?
Pastor J, you there? Uh-oh. Just to be a brief moment, you all. Hey, Pastor J. Think he's straightening out something. And while he's doing that, and he's talking about cloak and cover and conceal, it is like he was saying, there are sometimes victims in this, willing and sometimes unwilling participants, and being hidden can't feel good. And having someone do that. So hang on a second, let me bring him back. Let's see. Hey, Pastor J.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I
Okay,
can.
I don't know what happened. You know, that always happens to us when we get to going good. But can you hear me?
Yeah. Yes, I can. And
Can
did you
you?
want your camera on or off? Because your other avatar is not up.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. There you go.
All right. So got a chance to look at my bookcase. Okay.
A real one.
Back. Yeah, real one. Right. So the victims of being cloaked and covered, I'm finding out are many. And the people who are doing it get upset when it goes awry with that private, undercover, cloaked, concealed relationship goes awry in the sense of that person's feelings being hurt because that person had an expectation. And again, I'm gonna play on both sides of the fence. You know, if you notice that you're in that situation, if you're not going to get don't stay in it thinking it's going to change. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Don't stay in and think it's going to change. You
Mm-hmm.
need to get out before your feelings get involved, before you get to acting crazy and causing problems and restraining orders and all that stuff. If you don't like being a boy toy or girl toy, or however these words they use out here now, then get out of it. If you're cool with that, then you guys need to really sit down and understand that it's not going to be no more than that. But it's a shame that we live in an age whereas relationships are far and few between, and there's no commitment other than the commitment of fleshly pleasure. You know, it seems like
Mm-hmm.
everybody would agree to having fleshly pleasure, but no one wants to commit to each other,
Nope.
you know, for no period of time, you know.
Mm-mm.
And that's where we see this conceal, you know, again. Uh, Last year we really just talked about these women and the women love with their cloaking and covering for these men. And some of the ladies may be listening. You may be the woman who has a hubson and you spend most of your time concealing him, cloaking him, covering him, and he's literally driving you bananas,
Mm.
you know. And you got to ask yourself the question, how did you get into this? You
Mm-hmm.
know, how did you get into this? Whereas the person that you with, you're ashamed of. The person that you with, you really are embarrassed by them. And there's a lot of ladies, more, and I think it's more ladies than men that out here dealing with guys that they are truly embarrassed by, you know. And I've heard them say in front of mixed company, "Oh, he don't know what he's talking about. Don't pay no attention to him. I run everything. I do everything. Just tell me. Don't tell him." You know. And again, if you're telling his friends that or other men that, that's not helping his status amongst the brothers. You know, you saying that. You know that he's inadequate, he's insufficient, you know, uh, and that's a heck of a way to that's a heck of a relationship to be in, you know. And again, for these guys who are in that relationship, where you have these women who are in control of everything and doing everything and willing to pay, and all you have to do is be quiet and ride the gravy train, man, just shut up and ride the gravy train. Quit trying to pretend like you somebody that you're not. If you're not a Renaissance man, don't pretend like it. Don't even try to act like it. And tell and reaffirm in her that you're not changing. So she can understand This is how you got me. This is how you found me. Yes, there's been some incremental changes in me. Maybe I'll go get my hair cut every week instead of every 3 weeks. Maybe I could keep my nails cleaner than usual. But as far as him changing as his personality, that's not necessarily going to change because you accepted him like he is, and it's okay. It's okay. I'm not saying that this is a negative thing. It only becomes negative when it causes problems. You know what I'm saying, T?
Yeah, I do. I think that once again, when you were saying about how did that person end up like this, I mean, I think the person would have to wonder if they found themselves in this situation, they must be okay with it. And like you said, for those that need to ride the gravy train and don't try to, you know, show off and showboat and do all that, that's really not necessary. But then you have those people they just can't just be okay with just it being that way, and they still got to do something to show their, I guess, sense of masculinity or whatever it is. I just like it can be frustrating, I think, for me just to hear people doing that, and then did they just say, "I'm just gonna settle. I'm okay with settling." It just sounds like settling all over the place.
Well, the selling is not the issue. The selling is the issue only if it becomes a problem.
But wouldn't it be a problem if this individual that this person is cloaking and covering and concealing, the person's doing it to cloak and cover this individual, and they have to continuously do it, and they have to say those statements all the time. Wouldn't it already be a problem? I guess you talk about a problem if it gets more, like you said, restraining orders, it gets legality and all those kinds of things. It gets really crazy and hairy, but it feels like just a little bit of that is already a little bit of a problem unless that person's okay with doing that for the rest of their life. Okay, then have at it. If you like it, we love it. But I don't know.
Well, think about this. We can go to another Bible study.
Oh, Pastor Jay.
Isabel do. She jumped in and cloaked and covered and said, "Baby, you just lay here. That's no way for a king to act. I'll go take care of it." Okay, and she did, and he just rolled away. All right. Of course, Jezebel was evil, and I'm not saying women are evil. So I'm just showing you another story in the Bible where this covering happens. I can't think of the other one where David, uh, but I'll get to that. I think I'll remember that in a minute. But it's one of those things. Whereas again, as long as it doesn't cause you even a mental problem, we're going to the extreme where it might be financial. It might cost you more money to hang on to him than to get rid of him or her.
Mhm.
But if that's the way you roll, ladies and gentlemen, then roll with it. My problem, my issue with it is when God gives you a way of escape, you decide to stay in it for what reason? You know what I'm saying? When you decide to stay in a situation for what reason? I mean, it's causing you all kind of harm that you did not expect it to cause. And we're not going to even get into if it start with the domestic violence end of it.
Definitely not.
You know, but you think about it. A lot of women, pivoting, a lot of women cover for these abusive husbands.
And then there's like something to that too, because if that part of them wanting not to be abused, but they want to have somebody, they'll
Mhm.
say, is it better for me? Like logically, they rationally think about it. Is it better that I have someone that treats me like dirt than to not have anybody at all? That's the decision to make. I can have somebody that hurts me or have nobody at all. I think I'd like to have the person that hurts me.
And again, since you're the domestic violence expert as far as your book and stuff is concerned, and you being an advocate, when I hear that, I understand what you're saying, and yet there's a part of me saying, what I studied in college about it too. I told the story last time where we studied this lady who would get beat up by her husband, and he would beat her up on Sundays. So she'd go into work on Mondays with the scarf around her neck to not show where he choked her, or the sunglasses, or the cover up in the makeup, but they could tell something had happened. So what she did was she, instead of leaving him, what she did is cloak and cover what he done by start, starting an argument on Thursday or Friday, get beat up that day, and then have all weekend to recover. Then Monday she will go in and be okay. You know, and again, is that thing that we talk about during cuffing season, and then when now we're going beyond cuffing season, that that driving a person to be with someone and to cover up their abuse, or is it the shame of picking that person? T is are you not really covering for that person? Are you covering for yourself for picking that person?
I think it could be a little bit of both because first of all, that that abuse, if regardless if it's the physical, the financial, whatever it is, we all know that that's not something you brag about to tell anybody about.
Mhm.
You got shame and there's stigma to that. And when you say that to someone, whether it be a female or a male, the kind of the commentary that you'll get back. So he's beating you up, and you just sit there, take it. I guess you like it. And for the man that might be getting it, so you let your old lady beat you up. Well, that what kind of man is you? That just gives you stigma. It gives you shame. It gives you also guilt. Yeah. So I'm in this situation. I guess I deserve it. So I guess I'm gonna have to ride this thing all the way through. Not at really understanding that that's such a detriment to their life as well.
Yeah, and then on top of that, you have the reinforcement of that behavior through your churches, your pastors telling you to stay in it.
Right, and law enforcement
Family,
too at some time.
yeah, family dynamics. You may
Mhm.
have a mother or father tell you, "Hey, that's just part of being married, and you need to stay in it because that person financially takes care of
Take
you."
care of you. Exactly, right.
Yeah, or you have kids by this person, and you don't want to upset the happy. You don't want to upset the imaginary happy home. You don't want people to know that you're not the Huxtables, that you got
Right.
real problems in your household, and you don't want to expose that to the world because and for the woman, you're going to be shamed. I don't see any shame on the man per se. That normally is the man is normally being covered by her feeling shame, and therefore he continues to wreak havoc in hell in the household as if nothing's happening. You know,
Mhm.
he'll abuse her and go
Oh, Pastor, you went out. No, Pastor J, you there?
she's fine.
Yeah, there you go.
Am I back?
You're back now.
Okay, I don't know what's wrong with this stuff. But yeah, you know, it's just I don't understand it. I don't understand it because he would, like I say, he would go out and tell his friends and family members that everything is fine. And yet he's, you know, beating the heck out of you. And when you get around the friends and family members, you tell them everything's fine too,
Mhm.
you know. And it has to be a psychological manipulation and control.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's almost
Absolutely.
is it like the Stockholm syndrome?
Yeah, I mean, you have bits and pieces of it because one of the things that sometimes people don't understand is if you know how people can groom someone, you're staying with this individual all the time, every day. You're being programmed, whether you think so or not. That person is instilling into you the fear. They're instilling into you the shame. Who's gonna mess with you after they figure it out that really laid into you? Who's going to take you? You're not worth anything. And when I get done with you, I'll show you you're not worth anything. You get repetitive programming and repetitive verbiage and language day in, day out, all the time. There's no let up and there's nobody to stop that person from saying that to you. So what do you get to do but psychologically have that mentally put into your psyche day in and day out? You don't get a break from that. So of course it's a mental trapping. When they say someone can't leave, they have to mentally break themselves from that person. They can physically go, but they need to mentally break the hold because that's where it starts. It's mentally, it has to start there. It has to start there.
Mm. So I'm wondering for the one that who has a hub son, while she may believe that she's running things in a interesting kind of way that you maybe just think he's actually in control
Of course.
because he knows that she's not going to get rid of him
And if it,
because she
yeah,
takes pride in having her whatever, you know what I'm saying, her family, the look or whatever.
right.
Even though she's frustrated, and we swing to the other people. This is not a violent thing, but he's still in control because he understands what drives her, the need to be married, the need to have somebody, the need to not be alone. And man,
Right.
and that's how, and now that I think about it and been thinking about this, that is a strong desire
Yes, it is.
that you were willing to jeopardize your sanity, your mental health, your emotional health, your spiritual health, your financial health, all to say, I got a boo.
And yes, and look how and when we look at all these different stories and all these different things and all these people going through this stuff, because like you said, that desire, that whole thing, not just for women, but for men too. I can't be alone. I don't want to die alone. I have to have somebody. And with society already, propagating being single is disgusting. You need to be with somebody. And just people running and wondering why they get this in their head that I guess I got to be married. I guess I got to be dating. I guess I have to find somebody. And then you're just not a whole person without another individual because of the narrative that's being run. And it's sad because that person that you're talking about, that person is willing, like you said, to jeopardize their mental peace for the chaos because they like what it looks like. The illusion of it looks like the happy family, but inside they got this turmoil going on, but they don't want to be without a person. They don't want to be statistic. They don't want to be that. They'd rather just deal with it, suck it up, buttercup, and I'm just going to ride it. I'm just going to have to ride it because I don't want to be alone. I can't be alone.
And then we can pivot into, when we have women who have children who end up
Hmm.
doing that and not being with the father for whatever reason, but end up having different men running in and out their life as their children develop. What I've seen is it's not a good thing. It's not a good thing because she wants to be with somebody so bad that she's willing to put her kids in a position to be exposed to somebody she don't really know for real. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
She doesn't really know this person. She likes him. She wants to be with somebody. And eventually she lets the person come into her house and she has girls, boys, and they see this and they know that that's not their father. And then they go off into the room, do what they do. And, don't let the child get up, go to bed, go to bed. And the child grows up with this invasion into their sanctuary of different men and or women. So I'm being even handed and or women. And that becomes their normal. That becomes their normal because they don't really think anything's wrong with it per se. That becomes their normal. So then as they develop into relationships, then they and I've seen this with a couple of friends of mine that I grew up with, ladies. Um, their children eventually confront them with it and will say something like this: "You had a lot of men coming in and out the house, and I only got one man, but the one man I got is better than the men that you've had coming in and out the house. But the man that you picked, he has one of the traits that one of the men that you picked, he's a bum. So you have one guy, your daughter gets with a bum and has all her babies by a bum who's doing nothing. what you did for so long, you don't really want to be known, but it had an impact on them. You know what I'm saying? It had an impact on them.
Mm-hmm.
And with this cloak, cover, and conceal, again, they begin to do that, and now their children become a burden to them. They want to go out, they want to kick it, they want to do stuff, so they cloak and cover their desire to want to go out, but their children see that they're not as important. They're important for pictures, they're important for holidays, but as the sun falls, somebody has to go out and have a good time, and you want to jeopardize your children for this relationship, if you want to call it, that's really not going anywhere. you know and what I see now, everybody's plotting on everybody. have you
Yep.
noticed have you noticed that?
Yeah, it's the time of it seems like cuffing season and all this stuff. It's a time of exploitation. It's a time of let me use you, you use me, but I gotta use you first.
Right. Right. Who can make it to February 14th and end up with the most goods?
Right. And then I'm gonna dump you like a bad habit.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I didn't see men start off cuffing season in Thanksgiving, and when it gets close to Christmas, so they won't have to buy presents, they start an argument. Then they get back together right after Christmas and do New Year's. And then as they get closest to Valentine's Day, they start another argument so they can get on the other side of Valentine's Day.
Of course. You
So they
need to
want
do
to split
gifts.
in. But in between time, there's many of relations happening in the days where there's no argument. So yeah, this conceal and cover is something else. And it can go into a lot of different facets of life, and I guess it happens in many different dynamics of relationships. And when it gets to the point where there's abuse and there's crimes and there's like restraining orders, and now you become, instead of just a person going through something, you become a victim, right? You
Hmm.
become a victim of the abuse that you may have brought upon yourself by choosing and selling for someone. And as a woman, and I know you can't speak for all women, but as a woman, what do you think a woman should not settle for no matter what? Any traits that you would say she needs to not settle for that no matter what?
I think one thing is not to settle for someone who doesn't have just a tad bit of motivation and ambition for themselves, just a little bit. If
Mhm.
some, that for me, somebody has to want to do just a little bit better. Okay, cool. You working at McDonald's and you flipping the burgers. Are you eventually gonna move up? No, I'm cool right here. You don't ever want to do anything else, so
Well,
you'll be staying at McDonald's forever. I mean, there's got to be just a little bit of drive. They never settle for someone that doesn't have a little bit of that. And for me, of course, I definitely want someone to, of course, be God fearing and then just be respectful and loyal and no lying. Just be honest about who you are, what you're doing. Don't do these weird stories
well,
that don't make sense.
the one thing that you brought up something that we've talked about before: the women that settle for the guy who says, "I know God."
Mm.
There are so many women. Oh my gosh, there's so many women in church that married guys who told them that they know God, and they want to be with somebody so bad they don't ask the next question: which God are you talking about? Well,
Right.
I believe in Jesus. Okay, which Jesus are you talking about? And then if they ever explained it, then they be talking about the God of the universe and the stars and the Mars and I don't really believe in religion or church or nothing
I'm
like
more
that.
spiritual.
Just more. Yeah, that's another one. That's another word. I'm more
Yep.
spiritual. I'm not into that. And she's heavily into the church. She's heavily into her Christian relationship with Jesus. She knows that Jesus is her savior. And then you end up selling with somebody who says, "I believe in God," and then you wonder why the Bible put the scripture in, "Don't be unevenly
I'm
yoked."
easily yoked. Right.
What does light have to do with darkness? What does the Spirit of God have to do with the spirit of the devil? Why? And it's think about it. What drives it? The old three: lust of the flesh, lust of the eye, and pride of life.
I'm like,
Where
yep.
you are willing to settle. And what you find is more women settling with the God thing than men with women who are not. When a man gets saved, he normally will not settle for that woman who just tell him she knows God.
Right.
Because he's gonna want to see some fruit.
And you're gonna want to ask her too, like, what you mean?
Yeah. Yeah. A man
How-
is gonna be like, what you talking about?
right.
You
Like,
know, what
tell
God
me,
you
show
know.
me. Right.
And he's gonna want to see the fruit of her walk.
Right.
And the women who settle don't even look for the fruit of the walk. Because
And
now we're
yeah,
getting into the thing. I'm saved and I'm gonna change him. I'm gonna get him
no.
in under the radar into the church. And what happens is these guys are so good, they'll come to the church maybe 6 months to a year, and then they drift back right where they were. They got you now.
Mm-hmm.
And guess what they're counting on? That your Christian value is such that you won't leave them.
Mm-hmm.
You won't leave them. You've married them and you won't leave them. And you're the spiritual head of your household. You're the financial head of your household. You have gotten the guy who's become your hub son, but you fell for the okey doke of, yeah, I know God. Yeah. You think about the chat line. Yeah, I go to church, and then you say, okay, what's the name of your church? Um, um, well, I haven't been in a couple of years. But you just told
Exactly.
me, you just told me you go to church. What's your
Right.
pastor's name?
Uh,
Uh, and,
a lot of
and, and that's what when we talk about women and men relationship, women just need to ask more questions.
Exactly. Do a little digging.
They'll do just a little bit of digging because men are
Mm-hmm.
simple. If he hasn't thought out the whole line of you asking more questions, you'll stick him and you'll know that he's lying to you.
And you'll scare him away because he's not really. And I think that's one of the biggest things, Pastor Jay, when you ask me, one of the biggest things when I talk about all the other stuff, God fearing is so important. But when you say that to someone and you say, well, yes, I'm a believer, are you like, yes, I'm a believer too, and you start asking those questions, you automatically from the jump, you'll know that they're not for you, and then you eliminate them. But when you find people and people don't ask the next questions, like you've told me, tell me about your salvation story. Well, when I was 13, I got baptized and I've just, yeah. I'm like, what? No, like that doesn't fly. So if a woman or a man is looking for someone that they want to be with, then maturely you're going to be asking, tell me a little bit more about that. I want to hear what you're going to say. And some of this stuff never lines up. And some of it sounds really crazy when you like, what? You had a bad experience and you got drunk, and then one day you see you don't want to do it no more, and you found this. Okay.
Yeah. And again, think about it. What we're saying on both ends. Look for whatever they proclaim.
Mm-hmm.
Look for the fruit of it.
Yeah.
Whatever their profession and confession, where's the fruit from it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'll give you a real practical one. They have children. Okay, and they say, "Oh yeah, I take care of my kids. I take care of my kids." But you never see them spend the weekend with their kids. They always with you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you don't see anything if you go to their house that they have kids. You see a bachelor's pad with nothing of kids.
Mm-hmm.
You round him long enough to where he starts getting phone calls and he'll start saying, that's his baby mama. She always asks for money. Well, I thought you take care of your kids.
You should have to ask.
And then you sitting on your job, then all of a sudden this crazy woman run up there talking about, he this and he that, and he ain't doing this, he ain't that. And what he tell you is she's jealous of you, and your ego says, right, she's jealous of me. And then I've had women say this, and know that the guy's not taking care of his kids. This is the cloak and cover. You know that he's not taking care of his kids. And then you go have a baby by him, and then you say, he ain't gonna do mine that way.
Lies.
That's some famous last words I've heard before. What I'm doing with him is different.
Well, remember, it's diamonds and sparkles, so it's
Sparkles,
totally
yeah,
different. It's
There's stuff coming out of there that's never came out of no other woman. You doing it.
fireworks.
Yeah, you're doing it. You curling his toes, twisting his ears, all that stuff. And he ain't gonna never do you like that.
That's right. Never.
Yeah.
Never.
So then you end up having this baby. He do you exactly like that. And now you're trying to hold up. And you're covering for him
But
because
yeah.
everybody told you who he was, but now you got to cover for him because you don't want to be embarrassed because you made your decision.
Right. And now you're a little bit surprised, like, wait a minute, why is he doing this? Well, he already showed you his traits. He already showed you
Yeah.
who he
At
was.
a certain, and then I wanted to say this too. When you was talking about the McDonald's thing, see, that's fine when you're in your 20s.
Correct.
That's fine when you're 20. You flipping
Mhm.
burgers. You want y'all both in y'all 20s. But see, when you get in your 35 and up, and you don't see any progress, you don't
Mhm.
see that, and especially with him, that he's never had an apartment of his own. He's
Mhm.
always lived with women. He's never had a house. And then you get in the 40s, he's never bought a house. And then you find out his history, his job history is very sketchy, along with having children that he don't take care of. My
Mhm.
question to a woman is, why are you, what redeeming quality? And don't tell me he know God. See, that's how they get you. When they don't have other natural stuff that you can look at and judge, all they got to do is say to the Christian woman, oh, I know God and I'm going to change it. You know, the woman that I had, she wouldn't let me be a man. You know, you heard that one before. She wouldn't
Yep.
let me be a man. And then your ego kick in and say, oh, baby, I'll let you be a man. I'll let you be the man. You could be my man. And then you find out he's a whole hub son.
Like, oh, he's a bum. You
Right,
helped a bump. Like,
right,
no.
right. And again, you spend your time windmilling for him, trying to
Mhm.
not let nobody else see what they already know to be true. Because before you got in a relationship, when you was by yourself, you were looking good and shining and smile and you could see it in your eyes. Now you looking like you're carrying 10 pounds of potatoes on your back all the time. You know, you're looking all you're not even put together like you used to be because
No
it's
more
hard for you to,
shine.
yeah, the shine is gone because you got a
Mhm.
whole grown hub son that you
Mhm.
settled for, that you cloaking for, that just wearing you out.
It's sucking the life out of him.
Yeah, yeah. So
Mhm.
yeah, the literal life out of them.
Yeah.
And like we say, and don't let it get into the abuse part. Don't let it get to the abuse part. And again, don't let it get into the children. Because now,
Mhm.
we're gonna pivot to what we were talking about earlier today. But think about it. A lot of times what I heard this lady say about the abuse was, think about it, she settled to sell her daughter,
Mhm.
okay, and ignore her pleas from her daughter that she was being abused.
Right.
How many times in families where we have these children coming to their moms in particular, and they're telling their moms that some male that they look up to has done something, and the mother turns her back. We know this to be true because we hear it too much happening.
Right. In families, yeah, for sure.
Now you're covering for a whole pedophile.
Mhm.
You don't want to upset the church. All pastor wouldn't do that. All Uncle Charlie wouldn't do that. You know, no, we're talking about grown men and children, and boys are victims too. Of these pedophiles, coaches, families, family members, teachers. You know, all kinds of people in their life that um, your kids are being exposed to. And again, here we go. You throw your kids into these organizations and you run off to do
Right.
what you're going to do.
Mhm.
They're going to be there for 4 or 5 hours here, and you gone, and you just don't know.
Yeah.
You think you dropped them off somewhere safe, and you dropped them right off in the hornet's nest.
Yeah.
And if what you're doing is so important and so fulfilling fleshly, they could come to you and tell you that something is wrong, and you will say, "Quit lying." because you may partly believe them, but you don't want to take the time to investigate it because it's going to stop you from having your fun.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I hear too much from mothers, and I'm talking about mothers and fathers especially, but mothers, I hear too much of mothers who've decided to be a mother, but they feel they must turn it up still. If you still want
Yeah,
to turn it up every other weekend or every weekend, probably you don't need to be a mom.
exactly.
You know, the way you can help yourself and help your don't be a mom.
Mm-hmm.
And fathers, if you're not willing to be 10 toes down and take care of your children, dropping these seeds everywhere.
Yep.
You know, there's no benefit to that for these children to be raised. I mean, I forget the statistic, but it's really ridiculous in the African American community. These these children are not being raised by their fathers at all
Yep.
for one reason or another. You know, and all these women out here with these children and going to these clubs and dressing like they dress. You know, we talk about blood in the water.
Mm-hmm.
These men smell them. These men understand what they're looking for. So they know, again, their goal is to figure out what words do I need to tell them so I can have a sexual relationship with them. And I'll pretend to be anybody that they need me to be and let me find their threshold of compromise. You know, that's back to what we're saying. What should women not compromise on? So they won't end up with a hub son. So they won't end up having to cloak, cover, and conceal. You know, how how do we prevent that? And you know what I'm gonna say? How do you prevent that? Say no as much as you possibly can to everything they suggest, and eventually that person that's trying to cloak, cover, and conceal and get into you and get into your head, they will eventually stop trying because it's too easy to just move on to somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
It's too easy to move on to somebody else. But
Well,
no, go
yeah.
ahead.
Well, let's think it too, Pastor Jay. You know how they have these new terms, ghosting, zombieing, all that stuff. I used to think for a while that's bad. Somebody ghost me, somebody zombie me. No, that's good because if you got rid of them or they ghost you, there's some kind of standard that you have that they don't like, and that keeps them away from you. So let them do that. And one of the things too that I remember we talked about a while ago is when some of these women don't have these standards for themselves and they're just so desperate and have that desire of loneliness and desire of flesh, like you spoke of, they'll just do anything. And I just recall one of the ladies saying, well, if I don't dress sexy, how am I going to get somebody? I was like, is that really supposed to be your focus? Your focus is supposed to be on something else. You got a child that you need to focus on. You got a place you need to focus on. Focus on what is important and let all that stuff come. But you hunting it down and you're gonna get the wrong individual. And that's why some of these women they do. And I'm not speaking for all women, but we gotta have some standards. And what we described and some of these women describe as sexy is pure out not. It's not sexy at all. It's just really, really just ratchet. And that should all your private stuff should be closed and put together, but you just bearing it all like you should walk around like naked. It's just really sad.
Yeah. And think about it. The person who said that said, if I don't dress like this, I'm not gonna get anybody. Okay.
Hmm.
If I don't get this man to look at my breasts, my thighs, and my butt, then he won't be attracted to me because he's gonna try to find a woman who's setting it out. Now, I heard a story that I thought was pretty good, and Muhammad Ali told his daughter this. He said he had went to go see his daughter. She was a young teenager, and he noticed how she was dressed very provocatively. And he didn't make a big deal out of it. He just spent his time with her, showed her some love, and he looked for the opening. And he said, babe, he said, where do you get diamonds from? And she said, well, Dad, you get diamonds from the earth. And he said, is it on top of the ground? She said, no, you got to dig deep in these mines and these dark places, and it's real deep under the earth. And he said, oh, okay. And then he said, where do you get gold from? She said the same thing. You got to dig deep to find gold. He said, you mean go, you mean I can't just walk out here and find gold lay on the ground everywhere? She said, no. She said, Dad, you got to dig deep. She said, I think some mines are in Africa and places like that. He said, oh, yeah. I heard something like that. Then he said, where do you get pearls from? He said, I heard the pearls on the beach. She said, no, Dad, you have to dive down deep in the ocean and open up an oyster and 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 hope that the oyster has a pearl. He said, I can't get, they're not just laying on the beach. He said, no. And he said, well, I guess since they're so hard to get and they're rare, that they're valuable. She said, yeah. She said, that's why they cost so much, because they are valuable and they're hard to get. And he said, my daughter, you should be the same way.
Mm,
You should be the same way. What you are and who you are and what you have is valuable.
mhm.
And the less is shared and given out, the more valuable it is. You know, we've talked about this several times. In folklore, in scripture, in every culture on the planet, the most valuable woman is the virgin. Most valuable woman is the virgin. I don't care what culture you in. I don't care what mythological culture in. The Greek gods wanted virgins. The Bible talks about virgins. You know what I'm saying? All throughout the
Yeah,
human culture, that woman who preserves herself is valuable. But in the Western culture, what we've done is devalue womanhood, masquerading as women having. We believe a woman who has power should be able to go out here and do some of the things that men do. Well, this is a problem because as much as we see this, it's not a good look. No man wants to have a woman that she done been with everybody in the room and he walks into a room full of men and they're whispering about her. You know what I'm saying? Hey,
yeah,
Susan, how you doing? And they laugh chuckling. He like, what's going on? Oh, I know them. Oh, you know both of them? Yeah. Oh, they must be your friends. Yeah. She like now she like ready to leave because she don't want to really say what's going on up in there.
yeah.
Okay. And I've been in a situation where I've seen that happen. Okay. So all I'm saying is we've devalued what a woman is. Think about what we talked about, the cloak and the covering. I mean, when we don't know what a woman is, when we actually have people who are high intellect and you ask them point blank, what is a woman? And they begin to hem and haw and say they don't know, how is that valuing womanhood? And why isn't that more a toxic level of male masculinity? If you think about it, and we talked about this before, the agenda that's being run by these alternative lifestyles are not women. They are actually men telling what a woman is.
Mhm.
They're not women telling what women are. They're men saying, this is what a woman is. Look at us, the alternative, and we'll show you womanhood. They're not saying, look at the original. And my mama's a woman. My sister's a woman. My auntie's a woman. No, look at us. Mustache, beard, breasts, and hips and stuff. And we are the new woman. Well, again, how does that help women's rights? When you have that person's a male portraying themselves as a woman. And you women who are heterosexual are out here cloaking and covering for these guys that are actually mocking you. They're mocking you. They're going telling other guys they're better than you. And you're friends with these people. And you windmill for these people. You know, you do what you want to do, but just think about it for a minute. You know, this cloaking, covering, and concealing the true agendas of people out here in America is ridiculous. And what we've seen in 2024, the judgment begins at the house of God. And if you start, it started in 2022, and a lot of these mega pastors, these local pastors are being exposed for the deviant behavior that they've had inside their churches. And God is exposing them for the deviance and the depravity that they practice and gotten away with. And guess what? There are some people that he or she has been hanging around that has covered for them all these years. Another, a cloak, cover, and conceal right in the church. So if it's in the church, if it's in God's church that this kind of thing is going on, it has to be going on in society. And when it's spilling over into society, think about the Catholics. You talking about what? 100 years of this stuff going on, and it was all concealed. And we talked about this. Nobody wants to talk about it. You know what I'm saying? Hello?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, nobody wants to talk about it. Nobody wants to come forward. You know, they come forward with these books, and these books don't name names. And so they sell the books, and everybody's still intrigued, trying to figure out who was it, who was it, who was it. You're not going to stop this thing until you have full disclosure.
Yeah, and I think when you and I were talking about that, it really doesn't help because, like you said, you're speaking about some of it, but you're not willing to put it all out there so that people can get help. And because you have left the situation, you don't really care about the people that are still in it. Whatever situation that they find themselves in, you left it. Now you're out. So too bad for them. They'll have to deal with it and figure it out. But you're not going to help them, and you know specifically what goes on, but you won't say
Yeah.
anything. You won't change anything.
Yeah. I'm going to tell my story and give fictitious names, and I may give you a few names of people who are dead that's been pedophiles and child molesters and different kind of deviant behavior. But I'm not going to tell you the people that I know that's still doing it because
And that
these
doesn't
people,
help.
because I'm scared of these people. Okay.
Mhm.
At some point, some things are worth standing up for. And I'm missing 350,000 children that are missing in the United States that nobody knows where they are, but somebody knows where they are. Somebody needs to stand up for them. And if you notice, there was a lot of politics. There are all these politics this year. Wasn't nobody talking about that too much.
Nope.
Wasn't nobody talking about that. You know, they talk about everything else, abortion, gay rights, all that stuff. But you're not talking about the children that are in the United States that's missing, that it came across the border and they're missing. Nobody knows
Mhm.
where they are. And everybody knows, you say, all child trafficking. And we've got so used to hearing this thing called child trafficking. It doesn't even bother us until it happens to your child.
And then you wonder where they've gone.
Now you're ready to do the Amber Alert and everything.
Hmm.
You know, a whole movie comes out that talks about child trafficking, and it did get no traction at all. That lets you know we're numb to it. You'd
Right. And
rather,
they try to
you'd rather,
suppress it.
yeah, yeah. Sound of freedom.
Hmm.
They try to suppress it, but people could have saw it if they wanted to. But they saw it, ignored it, and went on about their business. And then you spend #1 box office hit is Gladiator, where it's the first time Denzel Washington supposedly kisses a man.
Mm-mm.
You know, it's ludicrous. America is ludicrous. This election is shown to be ludicrous.
Hmm.
You know, whereas they believe that we have been conditioned. And you know, and I'm not being political, but what I saw was they really believe we're conditioned, that we listen to our entertainers and our buffoons and our entertainers and our sports figures are our moral compass. And they've sold them that. And they believe that all we have to do is get their favorite entertainer up here and say, buy this, do this, you know, endorse this, and they'll do it. And that's crazy. Malcolm X spoke to that. Remember we listened to that?
Yep.
Malcolm, go back and listen to Malcolm X. You can Google it on YouTube where Malcolm X talked about um, um, the entertainers. He said no other culture has their entertainers be their leaders. Just because a person can recite a line, sing a song, do a rap, play an instrument, shoot, run, and kick a ball doesn't mean that they have the moral aptitude to run your life. But that's what America's about. We'd rather be fans in the stands versus being players in the field. So again, we cloak and cover our heroes. We cloak and cover these people who are so financially rich that they can participate in all these deviant behaviors, P. Diddy and others. They can participate, and we know what's going on, but nobody wants to say anything.
Yep.
Everybody's telling stories, but nobody's filing lawsuits. The only lawsuit that we know that was real was Cassie. And all of a sudden, oh, she didn't did it, now everybody else want to do it.
Yep, but not for the same reason.
But not for the same reason. You've been participating in this thing for a long time yourself. You know this. Why now?
Exactly.
Why now? Because he's locked up. So your moral compass didn't tell you that if you knew these children was getting abused, if these young male stars and young female stars were getting abused, you didn't think that that's something that should have bothered you enough to go tell the police? And yes, put your life on the line for somebody else that they might be saved. I mean, are we that starstruck that we cloak and cover all deviant behaviors and say, as long as it's not me, I'll ignore it. I'm going to conceal it. I'm not going to pretend. I'm pretend like it's not there. See, this thing of cloak, cover, and conceal permeates the American society at all different levels. I mean, think how many people are covering for Epstein.
Right. And still, to this day, still, yeah.
Yeah. Think how many people are covering for Epstein.
And Weinstein too. Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Matt Lauer until he got caught.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Ravi Zacharias.
Yep.
And so on and so on in the church world. You know, they're covering for Tony Evans. You know, they're going to make sure he stays covered and concealed. Yes, I did something, but it's not a crime. But but what I've done has caused me to step down, as if that's noble.
But you still don't say, but still, there you go again. When Pastor Jay, you just said it again. There it goes again with that cryptic language. You're stepping down from doing. What did you do? What is it? Well, it is a sin. Okay, well, what was that sin? You speak it in cryptic stuff. Nobody knows what it is. So what you stepping down for? It doesn't really make sense. Don't step down then if no one even knows what it is because you didn't even say it. What was it?
And because because it's not about God, it's about preserving the empire.
And the perception and the reputation. Yeah.
It's about preserving the empire so the money can keep coming in.
Mm-hmm.
You know, these men who built these mega ministries, these are businesses and empires that they want to hold on to for the rest of their life. And they're not going to hand it off to just anybody. They got to hand it off to a family member or some ally that will keep the money rolling in as long as they're alive.
And keep their legacy looking pristine.
Keep the legacy going. But the money has to go in. Just like this thing going on with Daystar. I mean, it's crazy when you hear people that supposedly high up in the so-called evangelical level, you know, Joni Lamb and her son, and they recorded the meeting, and this guy straight up says, Jimmy Evans say, your mother is God here at Daystar. What? So y'all need to do what she says. Submit to her because she's God at Daystar. That's what they said. I mean, he said that. While the mother sitting there like, yeah, I'm God here.
But isn't that like so much of when we hear some of these pastors that say that, like Stephen Furtick, I am God. Like they get so high up in themselves that they believe that they are God. They can't be touched and nobody can rip them off of their little proverbial throne. And they've made the people put them on a pedestal, make them an idol, and they just run with it. And they head so big, like, yeah, I am God. I am. Like
because the church in America has been taught at large that your pastor is your covering. And I'm going to tell you a secret. There's nowhere in the Bible where it says your pastor is your covering. Your covering has to be someone who is unblemished, who can cover every sin, who is willing to die for you, who has been raised for your justification. Who that sound like? Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, husbands are the covering of their wives. That's the marriage relationship. But the pastor is never your covering to God. Jesus didn't die for someone to be in between you and him. That's why the veil was broken when he died for the Jews. Read 2 Corinthians chapter 3. It talks about when the Jews continue to trust in the Old Testament, a veil is between them. But now that Jesus has come, when you turn to Jesus, there's no more veil. And that's when you have the liberty and the freedom to go boldly before the throne of grace. You don't need a pastor to go before the throne of grace if you trust in God as your Savior. You can come without him. You can come without her. You can come without your intercessors, because guess what? You have the Holy Spirit, Jesus, and the Father waiting on you to come. But now you want to throw in somebody and told you they your covering. They are sinner just like you. How can they be your covering? We can't even cover ours. You can't even cover yourself to die for your own sins that God would accept. And now you're going to put a man between him and God. The Bible even says there's only one man, one mediator between man and God. It is the man, Christ Jesus. One. We have one high priest. But see, this whole world of America is an idolater nation as a whole. We're always looking for something we could touch, feel, or smell to be our idol. So our idols become our church buildings. Our idols become how famous our church is. Our idols become the personality, the celebrity pastor. Well, when I read the Bible, and even in the Old Testament, them prophets, yeah, they were more infamous than famous because they had a pretty rough road. Even Jesus said, "You killed all my prophets," and they killed Jesus too. So where do we get this from? It's the American greed.
Mm-hmm.
And American greed is about cloak, cover, and conceal. And to get away with as much as I can in any situation, in any relationship, until I get caught up. Been there, done that. I mean, that's what we're taught. Think about it. Fake it till you make it. You've been told that,
Yep.
you know. Cover up who you really are and act like you're somebody you're not, and hopefully that you'll get there. That's not a good way to think,
Mm-hmm.
you know. I'm not gonna tell I'm not gonna say I'm sick. Well, if you ain't gonna say you sick, how God gonna hear you?
I rebuke it in the name of Jesus.
Yeah, yeah. Where do y'all get that from? Jesus said, "With the righteous cry for help, he hears them and delivers them out of all their troubles." Read Psalms 34, 17, 18, and 19. So if you never if you never admit that you need help, how can God deliver you? So you dealing with
Mm-hmm.
God in a whole lie of your ego. You cloaking, covering, and concealing what's really going on with you. He said, "You can lay everything at my feet." But you've been told that there's some kind of pride in not claiming what's really going on in your life. How can he heal you of cancer if you never admit that you have it?
Mm-hmm.
I know of 6 saints that then died talking about thinking they're not going to admit that they're sick and they're not going to go to the doctor. And they sitting right there in their grave because they believe doctors and God don't work together. Let me think. Luke was a doctor?
Mm-hmm.
See, some of this cloak covering and concealing is covering foolishness. It's covering foolishness. And for the most part, all of it's foolishness. The woman who's covering for a guy that they settle for just to not look bad is foolishness. The guy who's doing that for a woman that he doesn't want to bring around his real friends is foolishness. The mother, I mean, all of the relationships that we talked about tonight is foolishness. Somebody has to start being transparent and telling the truth about the state they in, the weaknesses they have. If you're a weak person and you can't get through this season without jeopardizing yourself, you need to tell somebody so they maybe could come alongside of you and help you. Don't fall into something that you're gonna regret that you wish that you didn't fall into. About time you finish cloaking, covering, and concealing, when it finally just falls out and you can't do it no more, we find out that you've been in this thing for 5 or 6 years. But you can't take it no more. So now you want everybody to come deliver you. Well, you could have got out of it a long time ago if you just really would have been honest. And I know honesty hurts. I'm not saying it's easy. I know truth hurts. It hurts. It hurts to come forward and say, I made a mistake. I wasn't in my right mind, or I was being desperate, or I was being horny, or whatever it is that you want to say that you were when you made your bad decision to be with this person and bring this person into your life. But be honest. The only way God can deliver you if you be honest with what you're going through. If it's loneliness, you need to take that to God. And you need to take that to some mature saints. But you are valuable because you're rare. You're not valuable doing what everybody else does. You value because you're different. You value because you're set apart. You're valuable because you have the self-control to wait. And is waiting easy? Of course not. But think about the alternative. If you lived any life, if you get to any age, think about all your friends and family members who didn't wait and how miserable they are. You got people who tell me, they've been in marriages for 40 years and 38 of them been pure hell. What? You know what I'm saying?
I do.
Did you just fall asleep over there?
Nope.
It sounded like you were snoring.
You wish I was snoring.
Because I was going to talk about you then.
Why would you? No, don't talk about me. I know
Okay.
you want to.
Okay. Well, I heard something like, "Arr." What was
What
that?
was that? That was my paper.
Oh, okay. Y'all believe that was her paper? Didn't sound like she's snoring.
Whatever.
But so I'm pretty much done with Cloak and Cover. I hope everybody enjoyed it. For y'all that's out there with her, y'all rerun this and y'all let me know.
Whatever.
She went over there and fell asleep on our conversation.
How you gonna say that?
This ain't the first one.
What? What are you
Is the
talking
first
about?
one? Yeah, okay.
No, wait a minute. Wait, you said I fell asleep on a different thing? Not this one, but a
No,
different one?
not on a podcast, but you fall asleep while we were talking.
On the phone? Is that real? Hello? Pastor J? Mm. I don't know if he's there or he's not there. Uh-oh. Now he's gone. Okay, I don't know. But listen, I don't know. I hope he comes back because he said he's done with Cloak, Cover, and Conceal. And we always have a good conversation. So I'm going to have to ask him what he's talking about. But I'll see if he's going to come back. We'll see. But yeah, I always enjoy these. So I'll have to ask him which the next topic we're going to be doing because I don't know if it's going to be Netflix and chill or something different. But we'll see because
I'm
I don't
back.
know. We'll see. Hey, your avatar's not up. Just in case. I was just telling them I don't know which one we're gonna do next since we just finished the Cloak and Cover and Conceal. If we're gonna do Netflix and chill, Love, Infatuation, and Lust, we don't know, but we'll figure out
Well,
which
I
one you
think
want to
Love,
do next.
Infatuation, and Lust will be the natural
The next
progression.
one. Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
because I mean, in a sense, the Cloak and Cover
Hey, Bastard G, you went out.
is
Are you back? Pastor J. He'll be back in a moment, everyone. Love, infatuation, and lust. Oh, you back? Pastor J. He'll be back in a moment, everyone, momentarily. But like he said, we'll be doing the love, infatuation, and lust will be our next one. So super excited about that one. And then we'll see where we go from that one. That is a cuffing season episode. So I don't know where Pastor J went. I don't know if he can hear me. Hey, Pastor J, you coming back? Do you need to go out and come back again? We'll give him some time. I'm sure he'll come back. But you guys pay attention to that because we are gonna have fun with this. And it was a Piper, but maybe I sound crazy. I don't know. I think he's gonna come back. Well, I'll have to find him and see if he comes back again. But yeah, we will be doing love, infatuation, and lust. So that is another topic for our cuffing season. So you guys look out for that because it's always a good time. We have a good time talking about it. I always have a good time talking about it. So I hope you guys will tune in for that. And I'll definitely keep you guys posted on that. I'll put a flyer out and Pastor J is back. So hang on a second. Hey, Pastor J, hello.
Man, I don't know what's going on. I guess it's getting too hot. Stuff is getting too hot. They don't. The spirits don't want us to talk about this stuff.
That sounded like it was a witchcraft way.
Yeah, I think the witches are trying to say don't uncover us.
No, yeah,
and,
don't do it.
and you know, a lot of things are happening this season too. Like don't think witchcraft is not real because some of these people are being sucked into witchcraft.
Mm-hmm.
Wanting to cast spells on people so they can be with them.
Right, exactly. Very true.
There's a lot going on in the world right now, and a lot going on during this season. So you just need to be vigilant and know what's going on. Ladies, don't fall for the okie. Don't for Christian women. Don't fall for the guy who comes along talking about he know God. Okay, dig a little deeper. And matter of fact, if he asks all the questions good and he's in your area, say you want to go to church with him and see how they treat him when he comes to church. Hey, here's a visitor's package. I thought you go to this church.
Why you needed one of those?
Right. I thought you went here.
It has been a while.
I haven't been in a while. It must have been a long while because they don't even know who you are.
Right.
Yeah, so that's it for me, T. We gonna cut it off. I'm done.
All right. Well, like we said, we're gonna do the love infatuation lesson next time. So you guys stick around for that. That's another one of our episodes for cuffing season. So we're gonna get out of here. Pastor J, you're gonna sign yourself out of here.
Yes, please check out Walk in Truth Radio Network podcast, Walk in Truth Radio Network Facebook, James Sutton II Facebook, Walk in Truth Christian Fellowship Church Facebook, and Walk in Truth TV YouTube, and Walk_Truth Instagram. And you can see my encouraging words, my Bible study lessons, our services, and everything that we do. I do an encouraging word almost every day. You can go to the playlist and look under encouraging words, or it might just be in the videos, and just check us out. I appreciate it. All those who come over there and just check us out and see if you like it or not. And I always want you to be encouraged, blessed, and in peace, and walk in the truth of the Lord. And don't forget to buy T's book. Go ahead.
Yes, I was gonna share about that. Thanks, Pastor J. So also my book, The Gift of Finding God's Love, Guilt and Shame, Turned into My Shine. You can get it paperback and digital. And of course, audiobook is yet coming. So you guys look out for that. It will be coming.
Yay.
So it is coming. So you guys can find me on this channel here. Please do, like Pastor Jay said, support his channel, support all the things we're doing. I'll be putting this on the podcast later, as he will be doing it on his too. So I just want you guys to remember to be blessed, motivated, and always inspired to do what the Lord lays on your heart. And you guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this talk and discussion we had tonight. All right, we're out of here.
Goodbye.
Bye.
God's gift through his word. It's God's gift.